Kitco News special coverage of Paris Blockchain Week Summit is brought to you by Okra, permissioned DeFi composable index and strategy execution platform.
We're talking about how to invest in the crypto and DeFi markets with an experienced fund manager managing $100 million in a crypto fund called Cypher Capital. Vineet Budki is here to join us today in the Paris Blockchain Summit. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, great to be here.
Great to have you. Vineet, you are the CEO of Cypher Capital. Tell us about your fund and your investment philosophy with this fund.
Sure. So, we are a $100 million fund. That's from our own personal money. Again, I used to run Phoenix VC, which was the fund one of Cypher Capital. We did close to 150 plus investments in the last 2 years. Some of them were Casper Labs, Kilt, which are one of the known ones. In fact, Paris Blockchain Summit, a lot of people are seeing across the ages, which is also an investment from us. So yeah, that's what we did. We did over 150 plus projects in Fund 1. We have done close to 10 investments in the last 2 months. Now, when you talk about the investment philosophy, we're investing in projects which have a good team, teams that have done something interesting in their previous things that they've been doing.
Yeah.
We look at what the project is trying to do. When you look at the use cases of these projects, that really interests us quite a lot. And of course, there are these general things about the backers who are backing these projects.
Right.
Personally, for us, the deal flow, we are not a lead investor, but a co-investor. So our deal flow comes from 75 VCs across the globe. In fact, we are building up ecosystem projects as well. We just built up a small $5 million ecosystem project fund for Ocean Protocol as well.
Yes.
And looking at 2 chains to deploy $20 million ecosystem funds for them also.
So just to be clear, it's a venture capital fund, no public equities.
No public. This is the whole 100 million is our own personal money. In fact, our background comes from the mining part. We have over 200,000 miners with us, and we are building the Abu Dhabi great mining project, which is going to have world's 25% hashing power. So we really don't need external money to build the fund.
I want to talk about some of the trends in the crypto space that you as an investor are following, and obviously as an investor, you have to be aware of where the industry is headed so you can invest accordingly. Tell us about some of the recent acquisitions you've made and some of the trends you're following.
So see, again, when it comes to investment, first of all, as I said, we are more sector agnostic, where we look at what the team is and what the background is. But of course, there are some flavors which come every few months. So when we were looking a year back, it was more about DeFi, and we went in big and invested in a lot of DeFi platforms. One of the projects that we have invested in is run by an ex-founding shareholder of freelancer.com. It's known as Mintrust, where we invested. Then we did a lot of play to earn projects as well. Like if you see across the ages, which has been talked about a lot, we went into those sectors. We did those layer ones as well. We were into Casper Labs in the first fund as well. So what I'm trying to say is, though we are sector agnostic, where we look more of what the team is trying to do and what the use cases, but then there are these flavors like DeFi that we invest in. We look at play to earn as well. NFT is also one of the things that we are actively investing in. So those are the things.
As an institutional investor, you're investing in NFTs?
Yes, we are investing in NFTs as well as NFT platforms. One of the first investments that we did was Bondly, which was an NFT platform as well.
Oh,
but in fact, my other partner is a lot into NFTs.
Okay.
The good ones as well, which are art ones, and also the crypto cats and all those.
Can you name a few NFTs you bought, or is that private information?
I think that let's keep it private, because that's my partner who does it. I'm more on the...
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other crypto investments that you've made. Now, when you're assessing a company to buy, tell us about the criteria you look for.
So I think
good management you've already mentioned. Let's talk about some more quantitative metrics.
So see, it depends on how long are we looking at a project. So it is definitely who are backing this up. What is the amount of fundraise you are doing? When you look at the current markets, they're a bit shaky right now. We are looking at projects which can run 4 or 5 years and build something up. People who are focused more towards building a product. Then other than that, for quite a lot of VCs, tokenomics count a lot. How is the tokens vesting schedule? We do look at it, but not that strongly, because for us, it's more about the management, the backers, what is the use case, what is the applicability. A lot of these projects are building user adoption in projects that will help Africa and Latin America, where I think the adoption is going to be quite big. So those are the 4 or 5 key parameters that we look at before investing.
Okay, I want to go back to the trends now in the DeFi and crypto space. So blockchain's been around for more than 12, 13 years now. We saw the rise of retail to institutional adoption, now country adoption of Bitcoin. Now that's important for a lot of reasons. It shows confidence in cryptocurrencies as a potential currency, as a potential store of value. What are the major developments are playing out right now? Are we looking at the metaverse? Are we looking at Web3, rise of NFTs? What are the big themes in cryptos right now?
Yeah, so coming to the point that you mentioned, the adoption is going. So
Yeah.
I still have a slightly diverging point on this. So currently we have 300 million people on board crypto, out of which I believe 90% are still speculators. They wake up in the
Okay.
morning to look at Bitcoin price.
Yeah.
So we're talking about roughly 2.9% of the world population in crypto, out of which 10% are real users who understand what Bitcoin does, what is the store of value, that it's an asset.
Interesting.
Now, look at 2030 or look at 2035, where this 0.39% ends up being 15% of the world population. Because when you look at Latin America, for example, Argentina, where the peso has lost 95% of its value in the last 10 years, they're looking at things like Bitcoin, where they can store value. They're looking at DeFi, which can give them a 8 to 10% interest rate. What is actually available in the US as well, like 2-3%. So for me, adoption is still on the rise. It's, speculators are there, but as we go towards 2030, a lot more people will get on board. So then next step comes is what are the key things that will grow on? So DeFi definitely is a trend that we look at. I think today close to $40 billion is in there, but it's much bigger. Lending, borrowing is a much bigger game globally.
Yeah.
So I think this will be really a cool space to monitor. If you look at, when I say play to earn, it's going crazy. When you look at, there are these stories about old uncles playing Axie Infinity in Philippines and earning a lot of side income.
That's it, yeah.
That's it.
Doctors in the Philippines earning more from GameFi than their actual job as a doctor.
Absolutely. So I think that is one more thing that is coming up. What I'm also looking at, Africa, India, we have a lot of people who are into crypto for the sake of investments, as in like waiting for Bitcoin to go to $300,000. But I think these economies can also benefit a lot from projects. So I think it's definitely these spaces of play to earn. It's NFT, it is DeFi, but also geographies that will grow big. Latin America, Africa, Indian subcontinent. And that's where, we are building ecosystem projects. So we just built the Ocean Protocol ecosystem project. I'm looking at 2 chains where we're talking to people from Polkadot, people from Matic to set up something to help these community geographies get on with crypto adoption as well.
Okay, so as a venture capitalist, you're assessing risk. That's obviously a big component of your decision-making criteria. Now, you're looking at an industry that's relatively new compared to traditional finance. You're looking at these startups that have maybe a solid management team, but that particular kind of industry or company has not had a very long history in the grander marketplace. So the assessment of whether or not a project is going to be successful is dependent on a lot of qualitative factors, right? What are these factors?
So again, my background is that I've been a startup founder for 15 years. I've done 3 startups. Again, investing in crypto is exactly like investing in a startup because it's a project that is raising capital to do something different. Now, when you say qualitative assessment, again, this all is done on projections. So the thing is that are these guys capable of implementing what they are saying?
Yes.
And then it comes completely back to the team because anyone can build a DeFi, lending, borrowing DeFi platform. But the point is, can you get user adoption on board? Can you get the total value locked? So it more comes back to the team, whether they have the expertise to do it. It comes to the backers because, building a platform is easy, but can you go and do the partnerships in, say, Africa with the governments and things like that? So that's where the backers come up, people like us, where we get them the connects and things like that. So it's more based on the human people who are driving this effort.
How do you feel about the emergence of retail banking with crypto? So getting a mortgage using crypto, or I guess lending with cryptos, or I guess collateralizing some of your assets with cryptos. Is that a trend that you support or not?
I personally completely support it and I use it as well. So I'm a miner, right? I mine 1 Bitcoin every 2 days. So for me, selling is not an option. I truly believe in $1 million Bitcoin vision. So for me, it's easier to basically go and borrow against it to do whatever I need to do. Again, we're still seeing the tip of the iceberg where we're talking about people going to Aves and compounds and putting Bitcoin and Ethereum to borrow against it. Look at the long term. The day these deeds of houses start entering blockchain and people start collateralizing the deals for giving you loans. It's something like a mortgage on the real world. So the scope is much better. So when people say 40 billion has entered into the Ethereum lending borrowing platforms, the space is much bigger. It's much bigger.
I want to go back to your point about adoption. So currently you said 300 million people
Yes.
that have at one point used or are using cryptocurrencies. Just in the United States, I was looking at Biden's recent executive order on cryptocurrencies. It stated that 14% of US households have at one point traded or invested in cryptocurrencies. How do we get to 1 billion people in the world?
See, again, this was a question that was asked in one of the last conferences. I think education is the key.
Yeah.
Now, trading is not adoption. Trading is people speculating.
You might be an educated speculator, right?
For me, adoption means people actually utilizing these to do something. So for me, I'm one of the first guys who bought a house on Bitcoin in Dubai. So when you're doing an asset-to-asset transfer and actually paying through a Bitcoin for
You bought a house with Bitcoin.
Yes.
Do you regret that purchase? Because the seller has Bitcoin. I don't know when you bought this house, but presumably his value appreciated a lot more than the house.
Again, one of the things that any person, whether retail or institutional, has to know, there's a diversification of assets that has to be done. So yes, we come from the 2017 batch and we have seen everyone. We are all hooked on to Bitcoin. Now, like I said, I don't sell my Bitcoins, but that doesn't mean that you don't diversify your assets. Again, having those real estate assets or gold is always beneficial where you diversify your assets.
But that ties into your earlier point about how do we get people to actually use Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency as a utility. So just in your point about, let's take your house, for example, right? Now, do you think Bitcoin should be used as a form of payment? Some Bitcoin maximalists would argue that, no, you should never buy a house or a coffee or a car with anything with Bitcoin because the value will infinitely appreciate. So why would you use something that will appreciate to buy something that will appreciate less?
So again, Bitcoin for me is not, personally I also think it's not meant to buy coffee, it's an asset.
Yeah.
And normally assets, you don't sell your gold to buy a coffee.
Yes.
You do an asset to asset transfer. But when you come to other cryptos like a USDT or any of the stable coins, yes, you can use them for doing a lot of transactions on a day-to-day basis. I personally think that it should be a case because we push on decentralization and we've seen a lot of currencies go to zero value. You've seen the depreciation in Turkey, you've seen Lebanon, you've seen. So I think yes, families should get on board. How does it go there is by education. A lot of people still don't understand. They think these are magic coins and they don't understand the use case behind it. If we can educate more and more people, I think the adoption will grow tremendously.
Final question, Vineet. I came from the Miami conference. A popular buzzword was hyper-Bitcoinization, which is the concept of having Bitcoin be used for everything in our lives. We just touched on this slightly, but let's expand this further. It's not just Bitcoin. Let's expand it to any cryptocurrency or blockchain. Can we one day use 100% of our personal finance, institutional finance with cryptocurrencies?
Not in the near term, 10, 15 years horizon. I personally predict that by 2030, we would have close to 10 to 15% population on the blockchain space.
Sorry?
10 to 15% of the world population. We're talking about 3% right now, out of which 90% is speculators. So we're talking about 0.3% going all the way to 15%. Mostly adoption coming out of Latin America, Africa, Indian subcontinent as well. But the 100% will take some time, I would say.
You don't support the notion. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Actually, hyper-Bitcoinization is, let's say, an individual using 100% of his life, or utilizing cryptocurrencies for 100% of his life. So, your bank account, your payments, your credit card, mortgage, whatever.
So see, some of the people who really understand would get on board, but for everyone, the whole population as such coming and using 100% of crypto, not just Bitcoin, to get on board, I think it will take time. Personally,
You don't support what El Salvador has done with making Bitcoin legal tender. People are literally buying coffee with Bitcoin.
I wouldn't support that. I think Bitcoin is more of an asset at the moment.
I see.
As adoption grows, it will definitely become a currency. But at the moment, I think it should be treated as an asset. It is a store of value. That's the use case of this asset. Of course, you can go and borrow against it and buy coffee on USDT. But giving Bitcoin to buy coffee is, in my personal opinion, not that.
Okay. Vineet, I appreciate your insights.
Well,
Thank
pleasure,
you.
man. Nice talking to you. And
Nice talking
thanks
to you.
a lot.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you for watching Kitco News.
Kitco News special coverage of Paris Blockchain Week Summit is brought to you by Okra, permissioned DeFi composable index and strategy execution platform.